Welcome to this month's CCI video update highlighting the great work of schools and their supportive community partners who are working together to reach the aims of the Lilly Endowment's Comprehensive Counseling Initiative. Today, our guest, Hadley Vlahogeorge, the Executive Director of Community and Schools in Indiana, a nonprofit organization that works directly inside schools, building relationships that empower students to succeed inside and outside the classroom. Welcome, Hadley.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy. I appreciate it.
No problem at all. Can you tell us a little bit about your organization?
Sure. So Communities in Schools was founded almost 50 years ago by a New York City social worker who realized that if he could bring social services directly to the school building in which he worked, he would be able to break down the barriers to access that students and their families have. And that has grown into a national nonprofit. We are the state affiliate for CIS here in Indiana. We are one of 3 affiliates. We have CIS in Wayne County and CIS in Lake County. And then our state office is focused on the expansion of the CIS model. So currently we have 33 site coordinators in 31 schools. And each of those site coordinators does tiered interventions for either the whole school, small groups, or case management, depending on the needs of the school population, to ensure that every student in that building has the basic resources that they need to be successful in and out of the classroom.
Oh, that's fascinating. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the opportunities you do in schools or have in schools?
Sure. So the first thing that a CIS site coordinator does is a site needs assessment. And this is kind of what sets us apart from other social services organizations. A lot of them have kind of a one size fits all. They walk into a building and they have their own roadmap. CIS allows the data to inform what our efforts should be focused on. So the first thing a site coordinator does is they delve into the attendance data, the behavior data, and then the data around academic achievement. And they interview teachers and parents and administrators and counselors and social workers, custodial staff, whoever is working and collaborating with kids to get a picture of what the building's most emergent needs are. And once they have that data, they set a school improvement goal in one of the key areas of either behavior, academics, or attendance. And then they work towards that goal all year, collecting data, progress monitoring the students on their caseload. And just as the school has school improvement goals, so do the students on that site coordinator's caseload. And all of that case management is done in collaboration with families because students don't live in a bubble. They react to the environments they find themselves in. And so oftentimes if a student is struggling in the school building, that means the family needs some support at home.
Oh, that is wonderful. Well, as you know, the Comprehensive Counseling Initiative's goal, their main focus, is to increase the amount of students in Indiana who graduate emotionally healthy, realizing academic success, ready for college and careers, and just life overall. So sounds to me like your work pairs very nicely with the goals of the grant. Can you share with us any particular stories, specific stories of a school or a school corporation that you're working with and the work that's been done there?
Sure. I'd like to really highlight the work in Decatur Township. Decatur Township has a CIS site coordinator in every one of their buildings, and in some buildings, multiple site coordinators, because the more site coordinators you have, the more students you can case manage. And so the buildings where their students' needs are most acute, they have multiple site coordinators. And Decatur used funds from the CCI in order to increase their investment in CIS site coordinators. And so that was an incredible gift for them to receive. The story I like to highlight from there is we had a young man who transitioned into a Decatur elementary school, and he had been from school to school to school because as his as rent would increase or his mother would experience fluctuations in her employment, they would get evicted. And so he was used to going to a new school every 2 or 3 months. He really struggled to build relationships with staff. He really struggled to to regulate his emotions when he was in the classroom, because he was a student truly in crisis. And so the site coordinator started working with him. She set behavior goals with him, attendance goals with him. She got him counseling through the district's counseling partnership. But where the needle really moved for this young man and his family, he started behaving better in school and having better outcomes. But the site coordinator built a relationship with his mother and really wanted to address kind of the root of a lot of his frustrations, which was that they were constantly moving and there wasn't that security and stability at home that he needed to thrive. And so the site coordinator was able actually to get mom, first of all, into an apartment complex that allowed her to sign a longer lease and have some rent assistance. So there was that immediate stability. Then there was sort of looking at that systemic issue of the fact that she still didn't have her high school diploma. And so the site coordinator got her hooked up with the Excel Center, which actually has a campus in Decatur Township. And so she was able to finish earning her high school diploma. After that, the Excel Center provided some career counseling. And so she was able to get a better paying, more stable job. And so then they were able to stay in the apartment that they had secured. She was able to be employed and provide better for her family. And suddenly this child had the stability at home that he was looking for, and then the stability at school that he was crying out for, because he was in a building where they knew him and they knew his story. And he had a safe person in that site coordinator to confide in and who would help him not just address that immediate need of some of those behavior issues, but he knew that he can count on her to help him regulate going forward.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that with us. I do have just a couple of questions then about advice that you would give for schools or school corporations who want to collaborate with an organization like yours. How would a school get started?
Well, first of all they have to do is email me, and my contact information is available on our website, cisindiana.org. But I would say begin with the end in mind. Right now, there are a lot of funds being funneled into school districts, which is wonderful. It's incredible, it's amazing, and it is long overdue. But be mindful of what those funding sources are, whether they are incredible grants like the Lilly Endowment provides, whether it's federal money, whether it's IDOE funds, or any state giving right now. This is a time of great crisis in our country and in our state. And so funding is available, but don't just think you're going to make a quick investment in a program and then, after 2 years, you'll no longer need it. The reality is the CIS model in particular, it works whether it's a rural community, an urban community, a suburban community. It doesn't have to work with, it doesn't require a lower socioeconomic population to work either. The reality is the needs of all children are rather significant. And anything that a CIS site coordinator can do to take that off the plate of a teacher is a gift, because then teachers can focus on the education, and then we can focus on those supports and wrapping them around a community of care. I was in education for 14 years before taking this role. So I was a teacher for 10 years, and then an instructional coach, an assistant principal, and a dean of students. And so the thing that appealed to me about CIS was, for the first time since becoming a school leader, I felt like I could take something off the plate of my staff. It was like, this just makes sense. And sitting down and talking to one of our board members, who's a superintendent in a very affluent school district, he said, we need CIS here. Every building needs CIS. And so, again, being candid, building those relationships, appealing to them from a school leader perspective to a school leader perspective. Again, I mentioned that this is a time of crisis. Teachers are overburdened, and during their 20-minute lunch period, they shouldn't have to go figure out how to get a kid a coat. And so that's really the sweet spot where we come in and we walk alongside those teachers. We walk alongside those parents. We walk alongside those kids. it's not a magic wand. We don't come in and overnight it's all sunshine and rainbows, but it's another tool in a school district's or a school building's toolbox. And goodness knows they need all the help, support, resources, and people that they can get to meet the needs of our kids, because they're just increasing.
Oh, all the time. Every day, something new, right?
Absolutely. Probably the other thing I'll add is that, we're always looking to expand our impact and our footprint, and we are willing to collaborate and work with districts as far as creating a funding plan and a sustainable funding source. We continue to collaborate with funds like the Lilly Endowment. We continue to collaborate with other local philanthropists, with state agencies. We are hopeful. A Senate Resolution 31, was actually just passed, highlighting communities and schools of Indiana and urging the Indiana State Senate to fund our efforts. So if we could get as a state budget line item, that would be a game changer, because again, then that takes the pressure off of the districts to find funding for us, and it takes the pressure off of us to find funding for our districts. And that was again similar to some of our other gifts. It was just affirmation that we are impactful, that we are an effective organization in combating so many of the challenges that children all around our state have. And again, especially if state funding is able to come through for us, we're very hopeful of expanding in more rural areas, especially because those areas can struggle so much. I mean, one of the stats I read in my research is that 80% of Indiana's poverty is concentrated in rural areas. And so a lot of practitioners of social services just assume or stick to the urban centers because it is easier to find resources there or funders there or community partners there. And that means there's an awful lot of kids in Indiana that are not being connected to the services and the supports that they need. So we would love to be able to increase our impact there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much
Thank you
for being with us. And thanks to our viewers for watching this monthly CCI video update.
Great. Thank you so much, Amy. I greatly appreciate you.